Alright, so I recently caught up in One Piece. At the time I'm filming this, the anime is in the Wano arc. Now I know what some of you are thinking, it's too long or I don't like the animation style. The animation style in the beginning isn't great because it came out in the 90s. It starts to look better after the first couple of arcs, and I'll talk about my opinion on the length later in the video. I don't think it's fair to immediately brush One Piece aside by using these lazy excuses. If anything, I recommend you guys give it a chance, and if it's not for you, that's fine. The first 200 episodes are alright. They aren't anything really special, and they don't exactly embody what One Piece is in its entirety. After the Skypiea arc is when One Piece gets really good. And I almost stopped One Piece after Skypiea, and then I decided to give it one more shot to impress me. And oh my god, it did exactly that. The arc following Skypiea is the Water 7 arc. Water 7 is when the main themes of One Piece become relevant and impactful. From there, One Piece does not miss. It's a non-stop grind of amazing arc after amazing arc. And I know a lot of people go by the 3-episode rule, and I don't want to wait 200 episodes for it to get good. And I completely understand that, and I think that's a fair way of thinking. I do have a solution to that, though. They did come out with movies that recap these arcs that you could watch and then start Water 7. That's not what I did, but I've heard it's a good option if you don't want to sit through so many episodes. From here on, this is a spoiler-filled review of One Piece, because it's very hard to talk about One Piece without getting into spoilers. So if you're not interested in that and want to watch it without spoilers, you should click off the video. You've been warned. The main plot of One Piece is about a kid named Monkey D. Luffy, who gets together a ragtag group of people and they set out to find the One Piece and become the king of pirates. Underneath all that, there's a very real issue that affects the world and the characters individually. Within the first 30 to 40 episodes, you are introduced to racism, corruption in the Navy, slavery, and even genocide. It's the Navy's job to put a stop to all the pirate activity that takes place because pirates steal and hurt people. But there are some things that happen to cause the Navy to cover up incidents and hide things from the public because it would hurt their image. There are even instances where the Navy ignores people that are in trouble just because they don't want to bend the knee to pirates. There are even countries that are taken over and ruled by pirates, and the Navy does nothing about it. Because of this, a revolution army is formed and actively works to take down the Navy and its corruption. There are some members of the Navy that see the corruption and decide to try to change the system from the inside. Some of these characters even respect Luffy to some extent because they know he isn't a bad guy, but they're obligated to go after him because he's a pirate. Luffy isn't like other pirates. He doesn't hurt anyone or take over countries. He actually helps half the time. Not because it's the right thing to do, but because the villain pisses him off. In my opinion, one of the things that makes One Piece excellent is the length. The amount of time they have to flesh out characters and their backstories is one of the great things about One Piece. They spend so much time making you connect with these characters emotionally. For example, in the very beginning of One Piece, I found Usopp annoying and I became disinterested every time he got the spotlight in an episode. Then after about 200 episodes and I got to the Water 7 arc. In that arc, Luffy and Usopp have a big fight and it ends with Usopp leaving the crew. I was so upset during that after a few episodes without him, I looked up if he returned to the crew or not. And yes, he does at the end of Enies Lobby when him and Luffy apologize to each other in a really emotional scene that just, in my opinion, encompasses the crew's relationship as a whole. But the anime managed to make me feel connected to a character I found useless and boring out of nowhere. They did the same thing with Robin for me. Now, I didn't look at Robin the same way I did Usopp. Robin was a pretty useful member to have with the Straw Hats, but she didn't exactly feel like an official member. She kind of stuck out a bit. But when we got to Enies Lobby and learned her backstory, motivations for even being with the Straw Hats in the first place. Because when she first joined Luffy after Alabasta, we didn't really know her full reason for being with him. She kind of just tagged along. And I mean, some people will make the argument that she joined them because Luffy saved her life, even though he didn't have to. But in my opinion, and as the story points out in a very subtle way, she didn't just join because Luffy saved her life. I mean, she was chased by the Navy, and she was seen as someone less than human her entire life. She didn't have a home, no family, no friends, and she went through this almost her entire life. Let me emphasize that again. And then she meets Luffy, and he completely flips that around. If you met a man who treated you completely different than everybody else in the entire world your entire life, I think you would join the crew too and want to spend the rest of your time with him and all the people that treat you like a human being, wouldn't you? I mean, it just emphasizes and it really fleshes out why these characters are here and their motivations for doing it. All of these characters join together for their own reasons. Luffy wants to become king of the pirates, Usopp wants to become a great adventurer of the sea, Nami wants to draw a map of the world, Sanji wants to go to the All Blue, and Zoro wants to become the greatest swordsman. Now, all the other crew members have their own individual reasons, but I'm not going to get into all that because that would just make the video way too long. But as the show goes on, these characters go through their hardships together, and then they devote themselves entirely to Luffy's dream of becoming king of the pirates. There are even moments where the crew members declare that he will be king because they truly believe he will. Zoro is a perfect example of this. In Thriller Bark, he is beaten by Kuma and is given the choice to take Luffy's pain in order to save his life or let Luffy die. Zoro does this and it nearly kills him. And the reason for doing so is because he truly believes Luffy will be the king of the pirates. After this experience, it hardens Zoro and he realizes he'll have to work harder and become way stronger to achieve Luffy's and his dream. I've become so emotionally attached to these characters that I may cry when Luffy becomes the king of the pirates, and I never cry when watching anime. Now I can go on and on about the relationship these characters have with each other and how well One Piece fleshes out these characters, makes their motivations very real in the way they act and how they interact with each other. One Piece does an incredible job of making you fall in love with these characters, and I cannot emphasize this enough. I think One Piece is, besides Full Metal Alchemist, is probably my favorite anime out there to make me fall in love with characters. And since we're on the topic of characters, I want to talk about one of my favorite things about One Piece, and that's Luffy. Luffy is one of the most lovable characters of all time, and I do not know a single person who dislikes Luffy. At first glance, you look at Luffy and you think he's some goofy kid who's probably weak compared to the rest of the characters you're more familiar with. And every character he confronts, even his own crewmates in the beginning, think that. But he proves them wrong. I mean, Luffy's powers are that he's made of rubber and he can stretch and inflate himself. That's such an original and odd power for the future king of pirates to have. But it works so well and it's so entertaining to watch him get creative with it and do what he can do. Luffy constantly declares that he will become king of the pirates. There isn't a single part of him that has doubt in that. He believes in it so much that he challenges people that are way out of his league. Luffy gets beaten a good amount in the anime. He almost dies multiple times throughout the show. But every time, without fail, he gets back up and proves them wrong. And you can't help but feel attached to him because of that. And I know that describes most MCs of anime, but Luffy has this energy about him that makes him stick out more. The main goal of Luffy is to become king of the pirates, obviously. But to reach that goal, he won't sacrifice anything. That's what makes him stick out the most to me. And yeah, he says multiple times that he'll sacrifice anything to accomplish his goal, but he never actually sacrifices much, because he simply refuses to lose. There are things that happen that make Luffy think he's lost everything. For example, when Kuma separates them right before the time skip. The crew gets caught completely off guard when Kuma and the Vice Admirals show up. Luffy even acknowledges the fact that he cannot beat them at this point in time and tells them to escape no matter what. But what ends up happening is they get caught and Kuma sends them all to different parts of the world. As a viewer, we know the rest of the crew is alive and Luffy doesn't. This completely consumes Luffy with grief and loss, and watching the scene you can see the helplessness and the mixture of emotions swirling within him. But out of all of those emotions inside of him, none are for him, or what's about to happen to him. Luffy wants to become the Pirate King so bad, but he wants everyone there with him when he accomplishes it. Enies Lobby and Whole Cake Island are perfect examples about how Luffy refuses to go on without his crew members. I mean, Luffy could have left Sanji on Whole Cake and Robin in Enies Lobby, but he doesn't. He goes out of his way to go save both of them and bring them back to the crew. Luffy is overall a happy, fun, and goofy character, and he simply refuses to lose. Luffy makes it very clear that he will be the best, and there is nothing you can do about that. Another thing that I think is handled very well in One Piece is how everyone's powers work. The way powers are gained are through devil fruits and haki. Devil fruits are fruits that are found all across the world, and they just pop up randomly. By eating these fruits, you gain powers depending on which fruit you eat. There's a downside to eating them, though, and that's losing the ability to swim forever. And this isn't a weakness that only affects them a few times. No, this is a reoccurring thing that becomes a problem for them. In most animes, when a weakness is established for characters, it's only touched on 1 or 2 times. but in One Piece it's a reoccurring thing they have to actively avoid. Anytime the sea is a factor during a battle, it adds intensity to the fight and makes you think, oh shit, this could be a real problem. Haki is another form of power someone can get. Basically what Haki is channeling spiritual energy and using it for different purposes. There's observation and armament Haki. There's also Conqueror's Haki, but that is only specific to certain people. Characters in One Piece don't just get stronger because they really want to or because they're in a really emotional situation. They actually work for it and put themselves through intense situations to become stronger. Early on, there are situations where Luffy can't do anything because he simply isn't strong enough to. Luffy doesn't really get strong until after the 2-year time skip, which doesn't even happen until halfway through the anime. In the later arcs, Luffy has to learn advanced techniques of Haki to even be able to scratch Emperors of the Sea. In Whole Cake, Luffy gets his ass beaten for 10 to 12 episodes straight without even landing a single hit on Katakuri. Through trial and error, Luffy forces himself to learn observation Haki, which eventually allows him to win against Katakuri. Currently in Wano, Luffy has to learn armament Haki to even be able to scratch Kaido or Big Mom. For the first 3 acts of Wano, Luffy is training and trying to learn how to use it. And that doesn't even cover the 2-year time skip that took place before. The whole 2-year time skip, each crew member was training to become stronger in their own way. When you see a character in One Piece overcome an obstacle or beat an unbeatable enemy, it feels so much more real and memorable because you know all the blood and tears that were shed to get to that point. Now, the villains in One Piece aren't incredibly written or as relatable as Thanos by all means, but they do the job. Early in One Piece, the villains are pretty weak and the crew overcomes them pretty easily. I think the first real villains they encounter are the warlords. Luffy goes into the fight with Crocodile thinking it'll be easy as fighting a regular pirate captain. Luffy loses to him twice and almost dies the second fight. I think this is the first time where Luffy realizes it's not going to be easy as he thought to become king. Crocodile is nothing compared to some of the other villains, though. Luffy goes against strong people in the Navy to Emperors of the Sea. And if you haven't watched One Piece, you probably don't think that's that big of a deal. I personally want to talk about Kaido for a second because he's probably one of my favorite villains, besides Doflamingo. We don't really get to see or hear much about Kaido before Wano. The times we hear about him is when they're either talking about Wano or explaining who Kaido is in a very brief way. All we know about Kaido going into Wano is that he is one of the 4 Emperors of the Sea, and that he's basically immortal. Normally in anime, the main characters have to fight their way through the main villain's underlings, and then they fight the main villain. Instead of that, Kaido just shows up out of nowhere and wipes out the entire Straw Hat crew in 1 episode. That obviously sends Luffy into a rage, and he goes charging in headfirst into a fight with Kaido. I personally love this fight because Luffy is so angry that he doesn't give Kaido a chance to fight back. Luffy goes all out from the beginning and just lets loose on Kaido. Kaido just takes every hit and gets up without a scratch. Kaido even does the one thing no one has done in the entirety of One Piece, and he one-shots Luffy after all of that. Just 1 hit knocks Luffy on his ass. When the fight's over, one of my favorite scenes in One Piece happens. And to the average viewer, you look at this and you think, oh, well, it's just, Kaido asserting dominance, but it's a lot more than that. These lines from Kaido have so much intensity and weight to it. Not only does he treat Luffy like he's beneath him, but he calls him a punk to further emphasize the gap in their strength. Kaido shows something that has never been seen before in One Piece, and Kaido did all of this while he was drunk. The rest of the arc is about Luffy trying to bounce back from that loss and to train himself to be on equal footing with Kaido. And that is what made this so impactful, because no one expected Luffy to lose like that. And Kaido isn't an incredibly written villain either. He's just a really strong dude who finds Luffy to be an annoyance and nothing more. That for me is what makes Kaido so interesting, is that if Luffy can overcome all these strong foes before him, then what makes Kaido so strong, and what else does he have hidden up his sleeve? Long story short is that I really enjoyed One Piece. I'm sure you guys could tell from me talking. I highly recommend everyone to sit down and take some time to watch it all the way through. While writing the script for this, I tried thinking of some animes I could compare to One Piece, but I really couldn't think of any. One Piece is really in a league of its own, and it continues to improve with each arc. I think Wano is the best arc of the entire series, besides Whole Cake and Dressrosa. There are some very real and emotional things that happen in this show that make you relate to it, and it also latches onto you in a personal way. One Piece doesn't waste your time with a ton of filler and pointless side arcs. Now, that's not saying there aren't some, but they don't take up too much time, like Bleach or any of the other shonen animes. The villains are unique and intriguing in their own ways, and it makes it that much more satisfying to see the crew overcome them. If I had to give a rating to One Piece as it is right now, I'd give it a 9.5. It's not my favorite anime of all time, but it's right there in second place behind Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. One Piece probably has 5 years left in its runtime, and we're reaching a point in the story where all the major events that I've been building since the beginning are being concluded. There isn't a better time than now to pick up One Piece and start watching. There are big things coming, and I hope you are all ready for it. If you guys like this video and want more videos like this, I'll be more than happy to make them. Just like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what anime you'd like me to review next.
2002, everything was totally new. We were globally huge, watching sales go through the roof. We rolling with you, the onion, Adams, soldiers included, a multitude of homies who were down for no good excuse. We were so bulletproof, smoke suit and soaked in our youth.